Hi, my name is Harald Huyssen, and I'm coming to you from True Sound Recording Studio in Antipolo, Philippines for another educational video in partnership with JB Music Philippines and Zildjian. What I'd like to discuss today is the shuffle. And the shuffle is a musical style or a time feel. Some people just think of it strictly as a beat, but it's really much more than simply a beat. And it's been coming up with some questions at clinics and from students, and so we'll tackle it today. The shuffle, unlike many time feels, is triplet based, and probably for most of you, you play straight or some variation of more straight time or duple time. And what that means is that you're going to play beats more like this. Or 16th note based. While the shuffle, on the other hand, is triplet based. So instead of thinking 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, or 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a, instead of 2 to the beat or 4 to the beat, you have 3 to the beat. And there are numerous ways to count it. One way would be 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1. And that's 3 to the beat. So just to become familiar with how that feels, play a single stroke roll on the snare drum and as triplets, and if you can, and I will now for your reference, play quarter notes on the hi-hat. Sounds like this. And that's the 8th note triplet. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. And that's the underlying feel in the shuffle. Now you'll remember from earlier that there was a repeating pattern on the hi-hat that sounded like this. And that's the first and the third triplet of every beat. And just to work on that exercise, because the shuffle comes down to being able to execute that accurately and consistently, a good exercise would be right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left. And so just now, for time purposes, so you can see where the time is, don't get this flipped around. The first right is the beat, left, right, and then there's the beat again. So right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left. What you want to be careful is that you don't turn it into something like right, right, left, right, right, left. That's what you really want to be careful for. And so, just so that you can keep track of where the quarter note is, because that's very important, I'll keep playing the quarter note in the hi-hat, and here's the exercise on the snare drum. Now you can speed it up, slow it down, work on the different tempos, so a little bit faster. Or take it slower, depending on, what your goals are for a given time frame. Once you have it happening on the snare drum, all you have to do is to take that right hand and move it to the hi-hat. Sounds like this then. First on the snare drum, then move it to the hi-hat. By moving it between the two, when it's on the snare drum, it's easy to hear if it's really evenly spaced. Sometimes when it's on the hi-hat and the other hand, the left hand, is playing on the snare drum, it's a little bit harder to judge if it's really even or not. You put them back down on the snare drum and you can tell if you're even with the even 8th note triplets or not. So as you're practicing on the hi-hat, if you start to doubt the accuracy of your playing, put it back to the snare drum to get a good gauge of if you're still playing it or executing it accurately. So again, the back and forth for a while just so that you can get the feel. Once you feel pretty confident with this, go ahead and try to take away the left hand, and so just playing the right hand on the hi-hat. If you're okay with that, try to put 2 and 4. We'll do it as a rim click for today. on the hi-hat, on the snare, sorry. And that's what this would sound like. Once you feel comfortable with that, put the bass drum on 1 and 3. And you're already playing a basic shuffle. Now, as is the case, 1 and 3 will not always work, and you're going to have some flexibility beyond that to be successful in playing in the style of a shuffle. And so now let's go ahead and take with the shuffled 8ths, which is what we're playing in the hi-hat, and put the bass drum on 1 and then move it back by an 1/8, move it back, move it back. So we're permutating back the bass drum to the different 8th note, swung 8th note partials. And that would sound like this. And that's the 8 possible points. And so once you get a good feel for getting through that exercise, you can do them as 2 bars to each one or 4 bars. You can make up your own. It's reasonable to suggest that you should be able to play most shuffles that you hear, the different bass drum patterns anyway. And so now would be a great time to try to look for some shuffles and exercise your ears for what you hear on the bass drum. Some common ones that you might hear would be one like this. Or adding in another bass drum. Or any other ones that you happen to come across as you explore the style. Once again, don't forget to listen to the music. Once you feel comfortable with the shuffle, one of the things that I like about the shuffle is that, or one of the challenging things anyway, is that you can do a lot of unison things with the shuffles that are actually kind of hard and challenge coordination, independence, and just limbs, you know, being able to cope up with 3 to 5 minutes of this type of playing. And so now, just as the hi-hat is playing, we'll put the bass drum in unison with that right hand, but we'll go ahead and move the left hand to the snare, and that would sound like this. So you can imagine 3 to 5 minutes of that, and you're going to get a pretty good bass drum workout. Another common shuffle, so that is a very workable shuffle, would be to actually have the right foot, the left hand, and the right hand all playing unison together, and that would sound like this. We'll accent 2 and 4 though. So another cool shuffle, and once again, that'll give you a good workout as well for your hands and your feet, just for stamina, playing that stuff for 5 minutes. So all of these are examples of shuffles. Another common type of shuffle would be a halftime shuffle. And what we're going to do to arrive at this is that instead of accenting 2 and 4, we're just going to bring out the snare drum on 3. And so a very simple halftime shuffle. The time there is 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now once again, you can change bass drum patterns, for example. Or whatever you hear. Let your ear and the music guide you in how you develop. Earlier, when we first started out, you'll recall that we did a right, left, right, 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 right, left. That left is a ghost note actually, and you can actually leave it in place on the snare drum, and it makes for pretty cool shuffles or variations on your shuffle. So now, using that last pattern for the halftime shuffle, we'll put that ghost note in. This is what it would sound like. The last shuffle that I'd like to deal with is a jazz shuffle. And the typical jazz pattern is this. So for time reference, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. And what we'll go ahead and do is add quarter notes in the bass drum to that. Sounds like this. Once you feel comfortable with that, try to add 2 and 4 in the snare drum to that pattern. Once you got that down, go ahead and push yourself a little farther and try to shuffle the left hand while leaving the other patterns all the same. So you can see that that offers some different possibilities, and for some songs that's really the better choice for a shuffle. The shuffle is, like I said, a style. There's really a lot of variations, a lot of possibilities. Explore getting comfortable with the basic groove before pursuing fill-ins and combinations and things like that, because in the end the time has to feel good, and for many drummers the shuffle is quite a challenge to get to feel comfortable, and for a lot of us we don't get too many chances to play them in gig scenarios. So check it out, make sure you're ready for it when it does come your way. God bless you.